The early morning sun barely peeked through the window when the harsh sound of Lily's voice jolted me awake. "Lauren, where's the coffee? Hurry up!" Her words rang out sharply, filled with irritation. I forced myself to sit up, the heavy feeling in my chest making it difficult to breathe. It was always like this, every morning, the same routine. As I scrambled to my feet, rushing to make her coffee, I glanced at the clock. 6:30 a.m. Not even dawn, and yet here she was, barking orders like a drill sergeant. My stomach tightened as I entered the kitchen, hoping to avoid the sharp sting of her next insult, but it was always waiting, always lurking. "You know," Lily's voice carried from the living room, "I just don't understand how someone like you could end up here. Someone who couldn't even finish school, playing housewife. Isn't that just pathetic?" I bit my tongue, the bitterness welling up in my throat. Lily, my sister-in-law, had been living with us for nearly a year now, and every day felt like a battle to keep my sanity. What started as her needing a place to stay for a few weeks had turned into a never-ending nightmare. Jack, my husband, had tried to talk to her, but she always dismissed him with a wave and a condescending laugh. "She'll leave soon," Jack had said a month ago. "Just give her time." But time was running out for my patience. As I poured the coffee, my hand trembled slightly. I could hear her talking to her fiancé Eric in the other room, her voice dripping with her usual superiority. I took a deep breath and steadied myself. "Just get through the day," I told myself. "One day at a time." I walked into the living room with the coffee, careful not to spill a drop. Lily glanced at me with a smirk, her eyes narrowing as if she were assessing every tiny detail, waiting for me to fail. "Took you long enough," she snapped, taking the mug from my hands. "Honestly, Lauren, I don't know how you function in life. It's a wonder you managed to land my brother." I swallowed hard, forcing myself to stay quiet. That was her favorite game, trying to provoke me, but I couldn't give her the satisfaction. Not today. Just then, Eric, who had been sitting silently beside her, cleared his throat. I glanced at him, expecting him to defend Lily like he usually did, but instead, something strange happened. He looked directly at me, his eyes filled with something I couldn't quite place. Was it concern? Sympathy? Then, without warning, he stood up and walked over to me. My heart raced, confusion flooding my mind. And then, out of nowhere, Eric hugged me. It was brief, but it left me completely stunned. Lily's voice cut through the air like a knife. "What the hell are you doing?" she demanded, her face twisting in disbelief. "Eric!" Eric quickly let go and stepped back, his expression unreadable. For a moment, I stood frozen, not knowing what to say or do. The room fell into an awkward silence, the air thick with tension. "I'm sorry," Eric muttered, his voice barely above a whisper. But Lily wasn't having it. She shot up from the couch, her face flushed with anger. "What is wrong with you?" she spat, glaring at him. "You don't hug her. You hug me!" I blinked, trying to process what had just happened. Eric's hug had been so sudden, so unexpected. But there had been something in his eyes, something that felt like a warning. "I'm sorry," Eric said again, his voice shaking slightly. I don't know what came over me, but I could see it in his face. He knew exactly what had come over him. And so did Lily. As the minutes ticked by, Lily's rage subsided, but the damage had been done. She shot me one last venomous look before storming out of the room. I stood there in the wake of her fury, my mind racing with questions. Why had Eric done that? What was he trying to tell me? Days passed, and the incident was never mentioned again, but things between Eric and Lily grew more tense with each passing day. Their engagement, which had once seemed so solid, now felt like a house of cards teetering on the edge of collapse. I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't right, but every time I tried to approach Eric about it, he would avoid eye contact and change the subject. Then one night, everything changed. It was late, and I was in the kitchen cleaning up after dinner when I heard hushed voices coming from the living room. Curiosity got the better of me, and I quietly moved closer to the door. Lily and Eric were arguing, their voices low but heated. "I don't care, Eric," Lily hissed. "You don't get to make that decision." "You're not listening, Lily," Eric said, his voice strained. "This isn't about you." "Of course it's about me," she snapped. "Everything is about me." There was a pause, and then I heard Eric sigh heavily. "I can't do this anymore." My heart skipped a beat. I wasn't sure what he meant, but the tone of his voice sent chills down my spine. "I'm done," Eric said quietly. "We're done." For a moment, there was complete silence. Then Lily let out a shrill laugh that sent a shiver down my spine. "Oh, really?" she sneered. "You think you can just walk away from me?" "Yes," Eric said firmly. "I'm done with the lies, with the manipulation. I'm done pretending." My breath caught in my throat. Pretending? What was he talking about? Before I could gather my thoughts, the door swung open, and Eric stormed past me, his face pale and his jaw clenched. He didn't say a word as he walked out the front door, leaving me standing there, frozen in shock. Lily appeared in the doorway moments later, her face a mask of fury. Her eyes locked onto mine, and for a second I thought she was going to lash out at me. But instead, she just stood there, breathing heavily, her hands clenched into fists. "What are you looking at?" she spat, her voice dripping with venom. I didn't know what to say, so I just shook my head and turned back to the sink, my heart racing in my chest. Something had shifted between them, and whatever it wasn't good. The next few days were a blur. Eric had left without saying goodbye, and Lily's mood had become even more erratic. She snapped at everyone, Jack, me, even her own parents. It was like she was unraveling piece by piece. And then, just when I thought things couldn't get worse, Jack dropped a bombshell. "I think Lily needs to leave," he said one evening, his voice low and serious. "She's out of control." I blinked, not sure if I had heard him correctly. "What?" "She's been pushing everyone away," he continued. "Even Eric is gone now. I don't know what's going on with her, but she can't stay here anymore." I nodded slowly, my mind racing. Part of me had been hoping for this moment, but now that it was happening, I wasn't sure how to feel. Jack was right. Lily was spiraling, and her presence in our home was like a dark cloud hanging over us. But something about the way Eric had left still nagged at me. There was more to the story, something Lily wasn't telling us. That night, after Jack had fallen asleep, I lay awake, staring at the ceiling. My mind kept replaying the conversation I had overheard between Lily and Eric. His words echoed in my head. "I'm done pretending." What had he meant by that? What had he been pretending? Unable to sleep, I slipped out of bed and made my way to the living room. The house was quiet, the only sound the soft ticking of the clock on the wall. As I sat down on the couch, my thoughts swirling, I noticed something out of the corner of my eye. It was Lily's phone, left carelessly on the coffee table. I hesitated for a moment, but curiosity got the better of me. Slowly, I picked it up and unlocked the screen. There was a message open, one from Eric. My heart raced as I read the words, "We need to talk. I can't keep lying to them. They deserve to know the truth." My hands shook as I read the message again and again. What truth? What had Eric been lying about? Before I could make sense of it, the phone buzzed in my hand. A new message appeared on the screen, this time from an unknown number. It's time. They're going to find out soon enough. A cold chill ran down my spine. Something was very, very wrong. I quickly put the phone down and stood up, my heart pounding in my chest. What was going on? What was Lily hiding? And who was this mysterious person texting her? As I stood there, trying to make sense of it all, I heard a noise behind me. I spun around, my breath catching in my throat. Lily stood in the doorway, her eyes dark and unreadable. "What are you doing?" she asked, her voice calm but laced with something sinister. I swallowed hard, trying to keep my voice steady. "Nothing. I was just cleaning up." She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. You shouldn't touch things that don't belong to you. I nodded, backing away slowly. Right. Sorry. As I turned to leave, she stepped forward, blocking my path. Her smile widened, and for a moment I saw something in her eyes that terrified me. It was a cold, calculating look, like she was sizing me up, deciding what to do next. Good night, Lauren, she said softly, her voice dripping with malice. I hurried past her, my heart racing, and retreated to the safety of my bedroom, but sleep didn't come easily that night. I lay there, wide awake, my mind racing with questions. What was Lily hiding? And more importantly, how much danger were we all in? The next morning I woke up with a sense of dread that I couldn't shake. Jack was already up, making coffee in the kitchen, but I couldn't bring myself to join him. Instead, I sat on the edge of the bed staring at the floor, trying to make sense of everything that had happened. Then the front door creaked open. I froze, my heart pounding in my chest. Someone was in the house, but who? Footsteps echoed down the hall, and I held my breath, waiting. A moment later, Jack appeared in the doorway, his face pale and his eyes wide. "Lauren," he whispered, "there's someone you need to meet."